The knock came at midnight, soft at first, then frantic, like a heartbeat against the door. Emma jolted awake, her breath catching in her throat. The wind howled outside, rattling the loose frames of the old apartment, and somewhere down the hall a door slammed. She reached for her phone, fingers shaking, when a small voice whispered from the darkness beside her bed. "Mommy, can you fix our door? I'm scared." Lily's eyes were wide, reflecting the pale streetlight leaking through the curtains. Emma pulled her daughter close, trying to be brave when fear sat heavy in her chest. The front door had been damaged earlier that evening when someone tried to force it open. The landlord hadn't answered. The police said they would send someone when available. And now, in the dead of night, the broken lock felt like an open wound. Emma checked the door again. The latch barely held. Every creak of the building made her flinch. She hugged Lily tighter and whispered reassurances she wasn't sure she believed herself. That was when Lily, clinging to her pajama sleeve, said something unexpected. "The man next door fixes things, Mommy. He smiles at me in the morning. Can we ask him?" Emma hesitated. The neighbor was quiet, rarely seen except early mornings. She knew only that he wore simple clothes and drove an old car. Asking a stranger for help at midnight felt dangerous, but doing nothing felt worse. With a deep breath, she opened the door just enough to step into the hallway. The corridor lights flickered as she knocked next door. Once. Twice. The door opened almost immediately. A tall man stood there, concern crossing his face as he took in the scene, a frightened child, a pale mother, and fear written all over them. "Is everything okay?" he asked gently. Emma's voice cracked as she explained. The broken door. The fear. The night that wouldn't end. She apologized for bothering him, already preparing for rejection. Instead, he grabbed his coat and a small toolbox from the hallway table. "Show me," he said. Within minutes, he was kneeling at the door, inspecting the damaged lock with calm precision. Lily watched from behind her mother, clutching her stuffed bear. "It's not safe like this," he said softly. "But I can fix it enough for tonight." He worked quickly, reinforcing the latch, tightening screws, and adding a temporary metal brace. His movements were steady, confident, as if he had done this many times before. When he finished, he tested the door several times before nodding. "It'll hold," he said. "I'll come back in the morning and make it better." Emma felt tears well in her eyes, tears of relief, of gratitude, of exhaustion finally releasing its grip. She tried to thank him, stumbling over her words. "It's no trouble," he replied. No one should feel unsafe in their own home. As he turned to leave, Lily suddenly stepped forward. "Thank you for fixing our door," she said. "Mommy's not scared anymore." He smiled at her, a soft, genuine smile that seemed to warm the room. "Sleep well," he said. "If you need anything tonight, knock on my door." The next morning, a knock came early. Emma opened the door to find the neighbor again, this time with a new lock, sturdier than the old one, and a repairman in tow. Within an hour, the door was fully fixed, stronger than before. As they worked, Emma learned the truth. The quiet neighbor wasn't just a man who fixed things. He was the CEO of a major construction firm, someone who spent his days overseeing massive projects and signing million-dollar deals. Yet here he was, fixing a single broken door without hesitation. When Emma tried to refuse his help, embarrassed by her small apartment and her limited means, he stopped her gently. "Strength isn't about how much you have," he said. "It's about showing up when someone needs you." Before he left, he slipped an envelope onto the table. Inside was his card and a note with contacts for legal aid, housing assistance, and a community support group. Not charity, opportunity. That night, Emma slept without fear for the first time in weeks. Lily slept peacefully, her bear tucked under her chin. And Emma realized something powerful. Hope doesn't always arrive with noise or recognition. Sometimes it lives quietly next door, waiting for a knock in the dark. The broken door had been fixed, but more importantly, so had her faith. Faith that kindness still existed. Faith that help could come when least expected. And faith that even in the scariest moments, someone might be listening, ready to show up when it mattered most. The morning light revealed what the night had hidden. Emma stood in the doorway long after the neighbor left, running her fingers over the solid new lock. It felt unreal, how something so small could change everything. Lily twirled around the living room, testing the door again and again, smiling each time it clicked shut. "We're safe now, Mommy," she said with a certainty only children have. Emma nodded, but her heart was still heavy. Safety for one night didn't erase the truth. Bills were overdue. The landlord had ignored her calls for months. The job she worked barely covered food, let alone repairs or emergencies. The broken door had simply exposed how fragile their life had become. Later that day, Emma noticed movement next door. The quiet neighbor was loading a few boxes into his car. She hesitated, then gathered her courage and stepped outside. "I just wanted to thank you again," she said. "You didn't have to do all that." He smiled, but there was something tired behind his eyes. "I know I didn't have to," he replied. "But I've learned that the smallest moments often matter the most." She finally asked the question that had been sitting in her chest all morning. "Why did you help us so quickly?" He paused, leaning against his car. "Because years ago, no one helped my mother when she asked." The words opened a door he hadn't planned to step through. He told her about growing up in a cramped apartment much like hers, about a single mother who worked herself sick and still couldn't keep the world out. One night, when he was Lily's age, their door had been kicked in during a robbery. No neighbor came. No one checked on them. "I promised myself," he said quietly, "that if I ever had the ability to protect someone else from that fear, I wouldn't look away." Emma felt tears burn her eyes again, not from fear this time, but from understanding. Over the next few days, their lives began to overlap in unexpected ways. He helped her speak to the landlord, calm, firm, impossible to ignore. Repairs that had been pending for months were suddenly scheduled. The building felt less neglected, less forgotten. But the real challenge came one evening when Emma received a notice slipped under her door. Rent was increasing. If she couldn't pay within 30 days, she would have to leave. Panic returned, sharper than before. She sat at the kitchen table long after Lily fell asleep, staring at the paper like it might change if she looked hard enough. Pride told her to handle it alone. Fear told her she couldn't. The next morning, she knocked on the neighbor's door again, this time in daylight, this time ashamed. "I don't want money," she said quickly. I don't know what to do." He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "You don't need charity," he said. "You need stability." Within a week, he connected her with a tenant rights group. The rent increase was illegal. The notice was withdrawn. For the first time in years, Emma felt like the ground beneath her feet wasn't constantly shifting. Lily noticed the change before anyone else. "Mommy, you smile more now," she said one night as they brushed their teeth. Emma laughed softly. "I think I remember how." The neighbor never made himself the hero. He didn't visit often. He didn't hover. He simply stayed close enough to be there when needed. One evening, as autumn settled in, Lily slipped a crayon drawing under his door. It showed 3 figures holding hands in front of a big door with a shiny lock. Above it, in crooked letters, were the words, "Thank you for making our house not scary." He kept that drawing longer than any award he had ever received. Because some successes are measured not in profit or power, but in quieter victories, like a child sleeping peacefully, a mother breathing easier, and a door that finally stands strong against the night.